right, time to talk about interviews. Something that gets people a little nervous, but we're going to break it down and see how we can make it a better experience. So what is an interview? It's just a conversation between you and somebody else, and there may be a few more people involved depending on the situation. And all that's really happening is someone's asking you questions and you're answering them with facts or statements. And it's just a way to get to know somebody, right? Yes, it's going to be in a professional manner, right? In the same way that you would meet someone that you were interested in dating and you'd wear your best stuff and you'd be really pleasant and positive and you'd have nice posture and all those things. The same thing here. So you're going to put on your best self, be the best you can be in the situation. But at the end of the day, everyone gets really nervous about this stuff, but it is just a conversation. You're just meeting somebody. And what's interesting too, if you talk to people who do the interviewing, a lot of times they're just as nervous as the people going in for the job. So when you go in, keep in mind, it's just a conversation where you're learning about each other. And yeah, you want to impress each other too, but you're just meeting. So beforehand, make sure that you know about the business and the person you're interviewing with. So what do you want to look for? You want to look for, get the sense of that person, get the sense of that business. What is their mission statement? What have they done in the past? What are they doing in the future? Can you get sort of a personality about the person or, culture from the business? Kind of get a sense of that stuff. It's going to help you look like you care about that company. And if you care about that company, then they'll be more likely to let you work at that company. Also, it's respectful for the person that you're going to be working with. So you should know what their job title is. You should know if they've done really something cool, right? Because that's respectful, and it also kind of impresses them that you've done the research. Make sure you know how to get there. I know you're like, I just use my phone, which is great, except your phone can die, the signal can go out, you may need to take a different route because of traffic, who knows, right? Just have a game plan. It's much more comforting to have a plan and then not have anything go wrong, and you have that backup. It's there versus having something go wrong and you didn't plan. I mean, it's better to be a little redundant, right? Make sure you're bringing your resume on that nice paper, your portfolio if it's an artistic related job, references. So that's usually 3 people with their job title and email and phone number. And they may ask for them. Don't just give them to, you can hold it back. If you bring it, hold it back. And if they ask for references, then you can give them references. You can bring a pen and something to write on to take notes, because sometimes your brain's not really in the best situation. You're a little foggy and you're not going to remember everything perfectly. So if you want to jot down certain notes like names or, details about the job, things, start date, things like that, it's kind of helpful. You don't want to be focused on that the whole time, but it's good just for those little couple word notes here and there. Something really important that people don't do, in fact, they kind of do the opposite. Visualize yourself doing well prior to the interview. And this can even be while you're driving in the car, if the drive isn't too stressful. But it's good just to have a moment, sit in the car, or on your way, visualizing success. They're happy, you're owning it. It's awesome. The reason is because you'll go in with a better attitude. If you feel like you could be successful, then you have a greater chance of actually being successful. Now, a lot of people don't do this. They sit in their car and they freak out about everything that could possibly go wrong. Or they just freak out because they're late, like me. Try to spend a little more time. Try to think of it going well. Your positive attitude that you're sort of putting in your mind will emanate forth as you have this interview. Arrive 5 to 15 minutes early. So you never know what the schedule is like for this person. So it's good to give them a little bit of leeway. So if they finish something early, then great, you're there. So they don't have to wait for you. Because even if they're running early and you get there on time, but they're waiting for you for 5 minutes, they're still waiting for you for 5 minutes, right? Now, getting any, like 15, over 15 gets a little too desperate. So, but 5 to 15, it's polite, never late. So, early. 5 is plenty, but again, 15 if you want to be safe. And turn off your friggin' phones, okay? Don't look, they don't have a place in that conversation. Your phone can distract you from this interview conversation you're having. So you want to make sure that once you've found a location and you've arrived, you turn it off, tuck it away. You don't want zzz, zzz, bing, rings, whatever, off. No buzzing. As soon as they walk in, you stand up, great posture, smile, handshake. Nice, firm handshake. Don't squish their fingers, but don't give a little lame one. Okay. Decent handshake. Match their pressure. Stay positive. So that smile you're wearing, keep it. Match their posture. So you're standing up straight and tall. You're smiling. When you meet them, you're being very majestic, right? You've got your shoulders back and you're standing and your spine is aligned and, you know, the same thing with them. Now, and with posture, if it changes, so you'll both be probably really stiff at the beginning, but if they start to do things like lean or cross their legs, that sort of gives you permission to do that as well. So you can relax a little bit once they relax. And in fact, you doing that sort of creates this subconscious relationship that you're mirroring them. I mean, you don't want to do it exactly like if they cross their left, you know, and then, you know, lean to the right. Like, you don't want to necessarily mimic it exactly, but notice how they're holding themselves, and that indicates how they're feeling about you. And so it's good to match that to say, hey, I get it. I see this. I'm on the same page. Frequent eye contact, because you want to seem attentive. Don't stare them down. So do look away when you're thinking or glance at things on the wall. So really, this is about seeming attentive. And if you are freaked out by looking at somebody's eyes directly who are across from you, look at their forehead, look at their nose. Unless they're super close to you, they won't be able to tell. So even if you can't stare directly into their eyes, it's okay. Just generally look in their direction. Be attentive. Of course, be polite. That's something I hope you are all the time. Honest, again, they will find out. So be honest to the sense that, caveat here, don't just divulge information. And we'll get to this when we talk about questions. So never lie, but that's different from just not maybe saying something or kind of putting some spin on something, you know, in the same way that politicians get asked one question and then answer a completely different one, right? That is a strategy that you may want to use here. But never lie. Confidence. So you need to seem like you're owning these skills. So the more confident you are in the physical space, the more confident they're going to assume that you are doing that job, having, you know, using the skills that you said you used, right? It shows that you're legit. You believe in yourself. You can do the things you said you've done and will do in the future. Clarity and conciseness. So as in any conversation, you want to make sure that the listener understands you appropriately. To do this, make yourself clear. So decide how you want to say something and say it rather directly. Also, enunciate. You don't want to mumble. It doesn't help, right? Concise. Again, you don't want to spend forever. You don't know how much time they have with you. If they only have 15 minutes and you don't get to the stuff that you think you really need to be talking about, that's a real bummer. So be concise. You don't want to just say, yes, no, I did this. But don't ramble, I guess, is really where I'm going with that. Which is, you have to love my description of this as well. I just made be clear and concise. How many sentences? Anyway. Again, you can take short notes, but just be attentive. Sometimes note-taking helps you be attentive, and it definitely helps you remember the details. This is really important, and a lot of people have to practice doing this. So illustrating your skills with real examples. So if someone says, you did X, you're like, oh yes, I did use that software. I'd use this software to do this thing because so-and-so asked me to do this, and I thought, oh yeah, that would be perfect. And so I taught myself this in order to achieve it. So tell a little, I mean, that's not a fun story. That's not going to win any awards, but the idea is illustrate, show them that you didn't just write something down on a piece of paper. Show them you know it. Show them you can put things into practice. If you have a funny story, by all means, share it, as long as it's not rude or negative towards, your past. But let's see. So I could say, they could say, how do you deal with stress? Oh, that's a fun one. Well, I make sure that I'm very organized and that I've planned ahead. And even if my planning doesn't go, to match the reality of the situation, then at least I've organized so that I can quickly think on my feet and do what I need to do. Such as when something was lost at my place of work and we needed it that day for the client. But because I had all of the files, I was able to quickly go to the printer and get another copy printed out right in time for the client presentation. And had I not been organized, I don't know if we would have been able to make that happen. There you go. Story. And if it can be funny, like I said, great. Something you want to do is be willing to start at the bottom and work up. Even if you don't genuinely feel this way, give them the impression of it. Because they want to think that you'll be satisfied in the job that you're applying for. Talk about how you're a good fit for the company and give some examples. So this falls under that research that you did, right? So you know a little bit about the company, what they do, what they've done, and their attitudes. Talk about how that matches stuff you've done, will do, and your attitudes. Why do you fit there? And don't wait for them to ask, Just sort of, I really want to work here because, and not because you need a job, but because you fit well, right? It's all about their needs at this point. Wait till you get the job to talk about your needs. Oh, and when you're doing this, use those keywords. Remember, we just talked about that in our cover letters as well. Search around for those keywords that they use in their website or in their work or whatever. Use those in your descriptions. If you don't know something and you need to buy time, you say, that's a good question, and you pause and look wistfully into the distance. And then you answer something. Or laugh. But yeah, say something. But as a way to buy time. Don't be silent, because that's just super awkward. At the end, thank the interviewer for their time. They will almost always ask you if you have any questions, and you want to end with something thoughtful. If you say, no, it means that, one, they're uninteresting to you, that you don't have any questions, and maybe that you weren't listening. So have a question ready. Some great questions. So ask something specific about the organization, something you guys didn't talk about, something that's not as easy to find out, something you couldn't have found out on the web. You could say, how do you define success for this job? And then you could then reply to some of the things that you didn't discuss before. So if they said, well, we need someone who is really punctual, and you could say, oh, well, and then a story about your punctuality, right? So that's a sort of way to fill in stuff that needs filling in. You can ask for a tour or to meet some people. Sometimes they'll just straight out do this in the beginning, but if there's time, it can't hurt. It shows that you're interested. What is your favorite part about working here? I like this one because it shows that you're interested in them. And if they squirm, then it means you probably don't want to work there. So I interviewed with someone, and they were sort of like shifty, and they were all like, the people. And then the next person said, yeah, the people. And the next person was like, yeah, the people. Okay. That should have been a warning sign, but, you know, I was excited about working there, so, So it helps you kind of see what they're into, how they're feeling about the whole situation. Do you see any reasons I might not be a good fit for this position? That sort of falls under the how you define success, right? It's a way for you to fill in any gaps. Because sometimes they will make assumptions because you didn't talk about something that you don't have that capability, and it may not be true at all. So it's okay to just go ahead and address it. Talk about long-term and short-term issues in the position, if you haven't done so already, and then again, you can talk about how you would address those. Day-to-day responsibilities of the job. Hopefully you guys went over that. But if not, definitely important, because you really need to know what you're getting into, and then you can answer, you know, how you would handle those things. Is there anything else I can tell you about? Again, filling in those gaps. When can I expect to hear back from you? What is the best way to get in touch? Well, always, that's a good one. Just for your own sanity. And then so you don't bother them as well too much. So after this is all over, you want to send a handwritten thank you note. You can also send the typed one. It just depends on the situation and your handwriting. But I like a handwritten one because it seems like it's more personal. But you can do it. You know, it depends how well the interview went, I guess, how formal they were and whatnot. If you can't find an address, which is unlikely given the fact that you went somewhere and met them, but if for some reason you can't find an address, you can email them a thank you letter. That is not going to be as personal as actually sending them one in the mail, so keep that in mind. Set a time frame in the interview to contact them, and make sure that you check in if you don't hear from them, so that they say, we'll let you know in a week, we'll let you know in 2 weeks. If it hits that day, you better call, because right. And you might even call a little bit earlier and just be like, you know, just checking, because they will not call you back if you're not hired. Usually they don't like that conversation, and neither do you, so they just avoid it altogether. So definitely check in if you haven't heard from them within the time frame you set. However, don't badger them with calls and emails. You do want to follow up, but be polite. You don't want to just call them every day. There's nothing more annoying than trying to avoid someone who's calling you every day and emailing you every day. Give them some space, right? There's other people. You want to give them the room to choose you, you know, instead of forcing yourself on them. When you're in the interview situation, always say something. By saying nothing, you're creating this extremely awkward situation where they don't know what to do. Is the person going to say something? Are they okay? What's going on here? It's very weird. And I know that shy people sometimes have trouble. But again, remember that's a good question. Or, let me think about that, right? Just spit something out so that they know that you're mentally present and you haven't just gone off in some other world in your mind. Oh, never say you just need a job. Obviously, that's why you're there. So that's understood. So you're avoiding that one. So, what's in it for me? Again, it's not about you, it's about them. I'm also interviewing with, in the same way that you don't like the thought of someone you're interested in dating other people, they don't like it either. So just leave that out. I'm just testing the waters, or I just want to try this. You want to seem committed. This isn't something that you're just doing for the heck of it. I have no weaknesses. That is always a lie. And we'll get into the details on that, but everybody has a weakness. Or Well, no, everyone does. Now, whether it's something you want to discuss is another issue, but you at least have to say something in order to seem like a humble, reasonable individual. When will I be promoted? That indicates that you are not interested in the job you're applying for and think you are better than it, in which case you should just apply for the other job or wait till it opens, because they don't want you in there if you don't want to be there. When can I expect a raise? Well, that's interesting since we haven't hired you yet, right? Don't put the cart before the horse. How much time off do you give? So you haven't even started working here and you already want to leave. Is there any overtime? That's a tough one, because I want to know that, and especially if you have like family and stuff. But at the same time, that's something, hold it till later. And the same way you're going to have a salary discussion, you can have a discussion about overtime at that point. The reason that overtime is an issue is because if you say, I don't like overtime, then you're like, oh, you don't want to work hard. But if you say, I like overtime, then they're like, are you desperate for money? Are you, kissing up? Like, what's your deal? So, now if they bring it up, you've got to address it. But leave that for the later conversation. Okay. You want to practice your answers, but you don't want to sound like a robot when you say them. So have an idea of what you want to say, but don't just memorize it and sort of blankly spit it out. Pay attention and do not ask a question they have already answered. I have done this. It is super embarrassing. Partly because when you get in there, like I said, your brain often goes fuzzy and you're just trying to the stress has just eaten your brain, and so you're trying to stay alert. So pay attention to that. Don't use the wrong name or the wrong title. Make sure you've memorized those. Make yourself some note cards if you need to. It's super embarrassing. And I've done this too in a cover letter where I wrote it to the wrong company. I'm real proud of that. When you're spitting out, cover letters every day, it's easy to do, but be careful. They will just ignore you completely if you use the wrong name. Salary and benefits, sometimes you can address it at the end of the interview, especially if they bring it up. I like to leave it to a second discussion. So in the same way that if you've had a first date and it's going well, you don't want to be like, how much money do you have and what are the benefits that I'm going to receive in this relationship, right? No, we're going to leave that till later. So I like to just save it till the other conversation to see if they're interested, because talking about that stuff can be kind of off-putting. You're just supposed to be eager and happy and helpful, and that kind of undermines you and shows that you're needy and want things. Never ask about the drug test, for obvious reasons. Never critique the company. You have not been there. It is none of your business. You love them, and you want to work for them. Don't show that you have an anger problem or you can't handle stress. Illustrate your skills with stories, but don't talk about how you freaked out or you got super mad or you really hate so-and-so. Because remember, they're looking for any sort of red flags, and things about anger, things about a lot of stress and not handling it well, they will remember that. Because they're assuming, again, that this is your best self. And so you're not going to brag about that stuff if you're trying to impress them. Or even mention it. Don't speak poorly about your past employer, because it makes them, well, first of all, you sound, again, angry, which is not good. You want to be positive. But it also makes them wonder what the heck you're going to say about them later, right? So, again, positive. Comment on someone's appearance. Don't do it. You're not there to look at them. You're there to have this intellectual meeting of the minds about what's happening. I had a student who said, I'm a costume designer. Okay, fine. If you do costume and fashion, that's one thing. Everybody else, you are not looking at them at all. You are just seeing them as a brain with a mouth, right? They're just you're ignoring all of that, and we're gonna get into details of how we assist ourselves in achieving that neutrality so that we don't distract. Again, don't take that phone in there. Like, if you have to take the phone in there, right, off. It's off. You're not checking it. You're not taking a phone call. Okay, they are the most important thing in the whole world at that moment. So keep that in mind. Bring someone else to your interview. Oh man, don't do this. I had somebody who brought their mommy to their interview for their internship, and it's just like, really? You can't, if you can't handle this on your own, how are you going to handle having a big boy job? Okay. Children as well. If you can't find a place for your child during the interview, how are you going to find a place for your child during the job? Don't seem desperate. It's really easy to seem desperate if it's been a while since you had a job. I thought I was doing fairly well in an interview, but then just seemed completely desperate at the end when I met someone, and it was obvious, and I knew it was obvious, and everyone knew it was obvious, and I didn't get the job. She's like, you're nice, but, didn't work out. Great. Probably because I was just, but 6 months of unemployment will do that to you. In Los Angeles, yep. Mm-hmm. So, again, positive. We're confident. Are you actually positive and confident? I have no idea, and I don't care, but you're going to pretend you are. Don't wear heavy perfume or cologne. It's really distracting, and if you have allergies, a lot of people have allergies to this stuff. My throat closes up when someone has really heavy perfume, right? So that's going to be super distracting if I'm interviewing you. Of course, never show up late. Because if you show up late, then they assume you're just going to show up late forever, and now you're not hired. Let's talk about appearance. Now, I do want to preface that a lot of you guys are going into creative industries in which the code of dress is going to be very different from, say, bookkeeping or lawyers. This addresses more of the lawyery, bookkeeping type people. I think it's good to know, but at the same time, you may not want to wear, it's like you don't want to wear a tux to a pool party, right? A lot of creative industries wear jeans, but they wear $60 jeans, right? They wear tennis shoes, but they're $200 tennis shoes. So do a little research and figure out what it is that the kind of people you're going to be interviewing with wear, and you want to address that or better. You don't want to just go over the top, though. But it's good to, if you're going to err on one side, make yourself a little nicer. So we'll go through this and see what you guys think. And I think, again, this is good stuff to know, because you may have creative jobs, and then you may have not creative jobs, or you may be meeting certain people that anticipate this sort of appearance. So even if you are doing a creative job, they don't understand the jeans and t-shirt thing. You have to put on the monkey suit, right? So know this stuff. Smell nice. You don't want to overwhelm them with your scent, good or bad. So make sure you've bathed recently. A little perfume doesn't hurt, I'm talking like deodorant or just like a little dab on the wrist or something but again, you don't want to give them asthma. And then mouthwash or gum. It doesn't hurt just to bring something, in your car and just spray it ahead of time. No one's ever said, oh, their breath is too fresh. Okay. Clean your nails. I know that that's not always the top of everyone's grooming priorities, but again, attention to detail. Iron your clothes. I hate that. I hate ironing. I really do. But it is probably the one time I ever do it. If you have pets, remove their hair with a lint brush. It's super nasty to people who don't have pets when you have hair that isn't yours. Heck, even if it's your hair, they don't even like it. I shed my long hair on my body, and people grossly pick it, ew. I'm like, that just came off of me. You don't have to be so grossed out about it. But there really is nothing like discovering someone else's pet hair on your body, which happened to me a lot at my last job. So just clean it up. Especially your car probably has cat hair and stuff in it too, so you may want to bring it with you in the car, check behind you so that you didn't pick it up from the seat. Don't smoke before an interview because you will just smell like smoke. So you've completely undermined all that lovely bathing and mouthwash. Also, and this is a toughie, avoid being soaked with sweat before an interview. Yeah, right, in the summer, huh? Well, crank up the car, put the air on in the car, and don't wear your jacket or whatever, Try not to stand outside in the sun, because again, you don't want the, part of it is the smell issue, part of it is the visual, and then also if you're sweating because you're hot, they're like, oh, maybe they're nervous, right? So, because sweat does, hot and nervous, so make sure that you're nice and clean. Make sure your clothes fit well, they're tailored to you. You know what that means, so you've tried on lots of different looks. See, okay, if it's cut here, it makes me look way better than if it's cut here. So try on different things. I recommend having 2 good outfits to wear because oftentimes you'll have that initial interview and then you'll have a follow-up interview. And you don't want to look like you can't afford 2 different outfits because, again, that goes under that desperate category. Am I saying that it's not true that sometimes you can't afford 2 nice outfits? Well, it happens, but, fake it, borrow clothes from someone if you have to. Just do your best to look like you have 2 unique outfits. Updated styles. This applies to your area. Some people are going to be more style conscious than the others, but obviously, certain, no zebra maybe at this point in time. It'll come back at some point. Things like that. Suits also have styles, like how many buttons and what kind of cuffs. And I know, I'm floored as to why this is a thing, but it is. So, guys don't get out of that either. No casual clothes in this professional sort of style interview. Casual clothes are okay in certain circumstances, in certain industries. Do your research, dress appropriately. And again, if they are casual, the sneakers are clean, the jeans are ironed, you're perfect. You may be in jeans, but darn it, it's all crisp and beautiful. No highly visible brands, because that's distracting. Avoid anything too distracting in general, like too much jewelry, neon shirts. Basically, you want to be sort of neutral physically, so that way what you're saying is the focus, which goes under the cover up and be modest as well. So if someone's kind of like taking glances, to the area beneath your neck, they're not paying attention to what you're saying, and you're getting hired for the wrong reason. So make sure that what you're saying is the most important thing and not what you're wearing. If you're going for the really professional interview, avoid leather jackets. If you are going for the movie studio, non-executive position, consider it, but it's got to be, again, premium. Alright, looks perfect. So men, you're looking at a suit or slacks and a sports coat. That's a little more casual, but that may be the direction you need to go. So again, feel out that company, do a little research. A tie, a collared shirt, dress shoes. Polish those shoes. They are not scuffed. They are not dirty. Know how to tie a tie. There's videos online. That's, I don't tie one, so that's what I would do. Facial hair. Yes, you can have facial hair. Of course, it's not high school or middle school, but make sure it's clean. Again, it's all about that clean appearance. If you're going for the business style interview, you're going to avoid earrings and other jewelry if you're a guy. Now, if you have some righteous gauged earring and you are a bass player, well, that fits the bill, so don't worry about it. If you have a giant gauge earring and you are trying to be an assistant accountant, perhaps put one of those clear little stoppers in there instead. Women, modest dress or skirt. Modest meaning at or below knee, I would say. You know, you remember how they measure people in high school? Go with that. And then neutral colored tights, again, because not distracting. You can also go the other route with slacks and a dressy shirt. The shirts where you get to have the fun, right? Nothing like neon or too patterny. It might overwhelm their senses. But, you know, you can be a little elegant, a little creative with the thing. You can also go straight out for a suit, you know. That's a lady suit. Elegant jewelry, so not giant plastic bubbles. Maybe break out that gold-plated cubic zirconium, or real if you've got it. Dress shoes, so you can do flats. Generally heels are more fancy. You know, I mean, I don't know about fashion, guys, but use your best sense. And again, polish them. You don't want them dirty. Wild nail colors and designs are going to be really distracting because you're probably going to be talking with your hands. And they're just going to be, like, tracking those across the distance. So, neutral. Dry your hair and style it. This goes for guys as well, but generally guys have shorter hair, not always. But this is, you know, especially for women, as they generally have longer hair, and also because they're held to higher beauty standards. Make sure it's dry. I hate drying my hair fully. There, I've said it, but for this I will. Generally, some makeup is suggested. It kills me to say this. As someone who wants equality for all, it hurts. But what happens when I go for an interview? There goes the makeup bag. Why? Because it's expected. Because it's your, quote, best self. Maybe there'll be one day when nobody has to wear makeup and you can just do it for fun, guy or girl. But right now, socially, it's all about knowing the code. And unfortunately, this is part of the code. So put on your face paint, you know, and don't go overboard. You don't want to look like the 80s. But, you know. Conservative matching handbag. So you don't want like a giant boat of a purse, because that's distracting. And you want it to match. Again, neutrality is what we're going for here, so that they're just focusing on you and not what you look like. You will be asked some tough questions. The following are a sample of some of these questions, and some ways to deal with them. Tell me about yourself. Well, I was born at no. Best thing to do is say your name, number of years experience in your field, your strengths, and you're looking for the position because, and it interests you because. So, very good format just to stick cleanly to. Otherwise, you're going to start rambling. So this gets it all out of the way. And it's usually one of those introductory questions. And they don't want an essay. What is your passion? So tell a story about yourself. If you just say one word, you're not going to seem very passionate about it. Because, you know, you're so excited you didn't say anything. So tell a story. And then use that story, like we're talking about, to illustrate, you know, your skills, or, you know, illustrate that you're a well-rounded individual. So you can use it to apply to the skills at work. You can also say, you know, I'm a human being that you would like to work with, and I do these things. Hobbies can be great. And if you don't want to go with the sort of stuff you do at work route, you can go the hobby route. You just don't want them to get the impression that you'd rather be doing your hobby than doing the thing that you're applying for. Why are you looking to leave your current job? This is a hard one to address when you are fired or you are trying to escape as fast as you can. The best thing, again, because you want to be positive, is don't be very specific and try not to badmouth anyone. And certainly don't talk about money, because, again, that's a later conversation. So what you want to do is sort of be general, like, I'm looking for a bigger challenge. I want to change directions, or I'm excited to explore new opportunities. And if they ask you about your boss, you can say something like, my boss taught me a lot about being punctual. Or, my boss encouraged us to work as hard as possible. Okay, so you can sort of spin things that aren't so great into things that sound nice. Be judicious. How do we know you will stay? Well, they don't. But focus on, how important it is to have that stable relationship. I mean, work environment, right? If we're dating, it's professional dating. You want stability. And then talk about how, the past has really led up to this for you, right? You've built up to this moment your whole life. It's perfect. And of course you would want to stay there as long as possible. This one's a fun one. If you were an animal, which animal would you be? They actually really don't care about which animal you choose. It's all about why you chose that animal. Because if you're like, I want to be a panda because I really like to eat and I'm lazy. Wrong. That's not good. I want to be a panda because they are strong and they bring joy to others. Yeah, there you go, right? So it doesn't really matter what animal is. You're picking something good about yourself or aspirational and then picking the animal in accordance with that. It's all about your good qualities. What's your greatest weakness? Well, first of all, you have to say something or else you sound like a jerk. So I always do something in the past and then talk about how I fixed it. It's like, well, I used to get nervous about deadlines, but I've really made it a point to improve on my organizational skills and plan ahead and think about different options if certain things go wrong. And then I find that manages it to the point where I don't have to worry because I know everything's taken care of. I've also started to give myself, more time at home where I'm focusing on things that I enjoy, and I find that relaxation is then brought into work. It wasn't that great for a weakness because it's gone. It's not even there anymore. What sort of salary are you looking for? That's a fair question. Let's not talk about it right now. Well, because I need to know more about the job and the benefits, in which case they may ask you what, and you could be specific at that point. Or, you can just tell them, that the company is reputable and you trust to offer a competitive compensation. Now, if they really are gonna ask, and you can't know, but it is worth doing a little research on the position that you're applying for and seeing the salary range and then applying your skill level and experience into that calculation. It is good to go in with the ballpark. And again, you want to go a little higher than you think, but not too much to where you scare them away. Why should we choose you? Well, talk about why you want to work for that company specifically. So make them feel special. You're choosing them. That's why they should choose you. Don't be too much of a fanboy when you're doing this, however, because that really can creep them out. So why you want to work for them, but don't freak out about it. Also talk about how the thing that you're applying for is something that you care about. That kind of work inspires you. You're passionate. It's exciting. So compliment the company and talk about how you fit in that and why you're excited about them. Talk about how the job itself really meshes with your experience and skill sets. And then you're just reiterating how awesome you are in a nice non-confrontational way. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Well, I'm very flexible, purposeful, so I want to work hard, but you're flexible. Basically, they want to see you with them in the same position in 5 years is where this is going. Or they want to see that you are content but ambitious. So, but don't indicate to specific degrees that you're ambitious, so that's where the purposeful comes in. Never ever indicate that you want that person's job that you're talking to unless it literally is they're replacing themselves, right? Or a higher up job because you want to seem like you're happy in that position, not that you're lowballing in order to just get anything and you're desperate. But ultimately you want to indicate that you want to stay in that position or stay with that company. They're looking for loyalty, they're looking for stability. What would you change about our company? Stress that you're an outsider and you don't have enough information, right? This is the way of getting out of this. And, if you have to, you're going to be brief, stay positive, and be constructive if they put you in a corner. So nothing, bad. Just be like, well, I might, the lighting. Or really saying that you don't know, and then maybe saying something that you noticed that was great. That would be a way to get out of it. This is the one where you do the politician thing where you answer a different question. And at the end of the day, may luck be with you. It is stressful, but remember, it's just a conversation with another human being. And yes, it feels like there's a lot on the line, but it'll be okay. You'll have lots of opportunities. Something will work out. It'll be good.